All right, are we full screen here?
Yes.
You can see.
Okay.
Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. The site that, oh, not morning, good afternoon. The site that we are designing is on Columbia Park. In the next slide, we can see that it is located on, it is located on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. It is located on 42nd and 44th Alberta and Columbia Street, 10-minute walk from Oakridge Station. Currently, it's part of the Canby Corridor Plan. And as you can see, Vancouver green spaces are scattered amongst the concrete sprawl. And as Vancouver develops and sees infrastructure improvement, effective green spaces will be an increasingly important issue. And from this diagram, projections from the census data in the Canby corridor shows that we're expected to see a double of population density in 20 years. Situated between a dozen of intersections and major transit routes, movements and housing of our population has been taken into consideration. And the question arises, what do these people need? And how can we serve people through greenscapes? Next.
In seeking to answer these questions, we started to do a deep investigation into the theories around play. One of the design ideation exercises that we engaged in was to take the 7 C's of play, which is a framework to support the development needs of children, written by our Susan Harrington. And we expanded that concept across several projected groups that we imagined coming to the neighborhood, recognizing that people of all ages, economic ranges, and levels of ability require continuous development throughout their life. So ultimately, in responding to the conditions of the site, we wanted to create an inclusive ecosystem of play for an increasingly dense and somewhat unpredictable population. The form of Gooseneck Park helps to achieve this goal by facilitating people's participation in diverse forms of play, fostering a sense of community amongst people and the ecology present on site. So as you can see with the existing site conditions, we found that the ecology of play was a serious monoculture that focused on good weather, outdoor play for able young people engaged in social play, team play.
And in addition to the low variety of types of play that exist, there's a fairly low variety of street trees in the surrounding area. And so taking that into account in our future park, we decided to keep the small stand that includes the red oak, European beech, the white beam, black cottonwood, and shagbark hickory that you see clumped together on the west side of the site. And then going forward, as you can see as well, as you know, the density surrounding the entirety of all 4 sides of the site will increase immensely, reducing people's access to personal outdoor spaces and thus making the site that much more important to them. And that also affects severely the level of sunlight. And so going forward, we also tried to gain some clues as to where we could strategically design to include sun in the cooler months and avoid it in the warmer months.
Our plan ideation starts from imagining different zones that will serve diverse forms of play and how routes of water and pedestrian circulation could be incorporated with the overall topography on the site. Next. And then we brainstorm some experiences of play that could be facilitated with our plan ideation, such as whale watching, climbing, and self-reflection, etc. Next. And we also made different types of landform models with clay and decided to have a large structure that connects across the site. Next. And after some refining processes, we came with making a structure with changing elevation that invites people to different zones on the site, gives them chances to experience the different perspectives of green space, and most importantly, to play in different forms as they move through the structure. Next.
Expanding on Kimmel's points, we further ideated our ecosystem niches, or formerly known as programmatic ideation. We looked into creating height differences in anticipation for high rises, community gathering areas like orchards, and self-programmable dining areas, and potential structures that can help alleviate heat, such as seasonal water features and shaded areas. Moving forward from this render, we came up with a gooseneck form that alternates between a walkway, a raised path, and a play area. The park also intends to overlap Alberta Street's blue-green system by creating a walkable, bikeable path with water collection areas that will fill up and act as bioremediation and filtering pollutants. The plaza located west along the paths will act as an area of congregation, allowing farmers markets, buskers, and public dining. If you follow along the previous slide, sorry. Following along the gooseneck from the plaza, you'll run into an amphitheater that is slightly below ground, surrounded by a berm. This amphitheater is intended to be used by locals for a jam session or to hang out, and it is intended to fill up during the rainy season and to act as a drainage buffer for the site. In the north of the area, we've designated an orchard planted with Ficus corica, Prunus americana, and Malus domestica, supporting people that are dealing with food insecurity. In the center, we've designed a raised platform to allow park users to raise themselves among the building and to give themselves a nice view of the entire park. The raised platform will be accessible by those with physical disabilities with a max 4% slope and encompassed with railings. Further south along the gooseneck, kids can play with the tree fort playground, which is also accessible by stairs. If you fall along the gooseneck, this woodland will act as a climbing forest where kids can latch onto the branches of Celtis sinensis and Metasequoia giganteum. Further along the forest, the gooseneck eventually lends itself back down to ground level. And in the south, we also have a slight depression, also acting as a buffer during heavy rainfall. By interacting with the gooseneck's form, people's participation in play will help foster community surrounding the gooseneck park, thus fulfilling a social ecosystem. And moving next to the next slide, we can see a circulation diagram. The dark gray path is the bike route that extends Alberta Street through the park. The dark purple represents the ground circulation made of permeable concrete that connects through the park. And the gooseneck's winding path is in pink, and it will be made out of mostly metal grates on the ground in anticipation for slippery rain and ice in the winter months, and the ability to filter sun through them, allowing for shade-tolerant planting. And the pale pink is the extension of the gooseneck that is found on ground level. Next, this section is looking north, allowing us to see a range of the gooseneck. The neck will be a max height of 4 meters tall, surrounded by appropriate railings and wooden support beams. In the next section is cutting north to south, looking east. We can see the artificial tree structures that are supporting the tree fort. And we can see on the south end, a climbing forest and the elevated gooseneck that allows people to get closer, to interact with the canopy. And in the following slide, this is our grading plan. We plan to push the contours towards the south, smoothing the landscape. We also intend to remove the swales on Alberta Street and to have triangular depressions, creating a contemporary rice paddy formation. Next slide. As we can see, this is our axo with everything layered, showing our circulation, our hardscape, and our water features. In our next slide, There is a short section looking west for our amphitheater. We plan on having a cistern collecting the rainwater, and then we plan to use that rainwater to help irrigate during the summer months. We also have a plan view of our artificial tree fort. This fort will be accessible from the ground or the gooseneck. And there is a little bridge on top that overlaps the gooseneck on top of it.
This perspective shows the approach to Gooseneck Park with the gooseneck tracing through the canopy after a day at school. And at night, on this fall evening, we have some risky nighttime light up Frisbee players in their autumn shorts, taking advantage of the open play space. And the blue-green system, slowing down the water around the plaza, provides a space for play and as well as circulation through them.
And here's our brief view of the planting plan. The planting plan is divided by 4 areas. The green is representing the orchard, yellow is representing an open meadow, purple representing a shady woodland, and the blue representing the riparian area. And next, we can see the dry and wet conditions and the overall flow of the drainage. Next, and we hope that our project has turned some necks, and we are open to critiques and comments.
Thank you for the walkthrough, the Gooseneck Park. I'm going to actually just start with a question, which is, what was the inspiration for the name? Besides the fact that it looks like a gooseneck, but what made you think of that on this site?
I think it was.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you.
When we arrived on site, the snow geese had just come through, and the entire park was covered in goose poop. And as we were ideating around play, the clay model actually came first, and then we saw the kind of like formal similarities between a goose's neck and this wiggly form. And then we thought, what's funnier and more playful than a goose's neck? Also, geese are these like aggressive creatures that are like the angry goose thing. In our play research, we discovered the concept of an alibi of play. And it's this idea that adults need this like silly context to provide an excuse for playful behavior. And that play subsequently becomes a way of exploring and diffusing the tensions and stresses of the real world. Thank you for that question.
Thanks for the explanation. Okay, I'll open it up for reviewers to jump in however they like.
Oh, may I, before we begin, we have an extra week to develop beyond this presentation. So we are very interested in the areas where you see the opportunities for us to refine and explore further. Thank you.